we would go to teach and interact with the people, and they would, turn to me as great training elders would and be like, okay, like this is your part, like, go ahead and teach. And I always had this pit in my stomach, like I'm going to mess this up, and the Spirit's here, and I'm going to ruin it. And I remember this one instance. I was probably two or 2.5 months into the mission, something like that, and we were teaching a family. It was in the evening, and I remember, because I can remember it being by candlelight, which was pretty common in some of the areas we served, where there either wasn't electricity or the electricity was constantly going out because the infrastructure just wasn't good in a third world country like that. The lights would go out, electricity would leave probably 8 or 10 times a day at least. Sometimes for most of the day, the light was gone. In fact, in my mission journal, I wrote at the top on the inside cover, don't ever take running water and light and electricity for granted again, because I didn't want to forget that opportunity, that blessing. Yeah. And I have a thought on that. You're going to regret inviting me to your podcast, by the way. I'm going to talk forever, and you're going to be like,
no, that's fine. This is great. I love it. Keep going. You're going
to have 20-minute episodes, and then this one's like 4 hours long.
Well, you asked me how long is it going to take, and I was like, it depends on how much fun we're having and how many stories you have. It could take hours, but no, please go ahead.
Yeah, turn this one into a five episode series, and hopefully it's valuable in some form. But so I wrote I just, on that note, since you reminded me, if you don't mind me kind of snaking through this story, but I wrote, don't ever take light and water for granted. And just, I have the opportunity now to be a priest advisor for my calling. So I get to be with the priests and see them as they prepare to go on missions. And I was sharing with them last year when I was teaching a lesson, like, that hit me just recently in the last couple of years. I was looking at my mission journals, which I'll do from time to time, reading the stories and thinking about that special time. And when I read that, I was like, I was thinking about the light and water of literally like running water and light. And I read it again, and I was like, that's Christ, like he's the light, he's the water, and I was saying, don't ever take that light and water for granted. And how often do I take Christ for granted in my life, And so that was just like a really special, like I was teaching myself what was important 20 something years later, after getting back from my mission. And it was, I didn't even know what I was writing at the time. But so that was kind of a special kind of spiritual experience just with my own journals. And kind of a testimony of keeping journals, because you can continue to learn from them, just like we learn from the scriptures throughout our lives. And so back to the story that you asked about. I was sitting there, and I was reading from the discussion booklet, which was more formal back then. Now it's more loose and open discussion. And so I was reading from the discussion booklet, and I was reading from some scriptures, talking about something in the lesson. And I was thinking in my mind, my Spanish is so bad right now. Like I feel like my accent is off. I wonder if they understand me, was going on in my internal script in my mind. And I was looking down, trying to read in the candlelight. And I looked up, and the family like had tears in their eyes, because the Spirit was so strong from the message that we were sharing. And I was like, I remember thinking, I'm like, I have nothing to do with this teaching. Like I'm literally just sharing a message that the Spirit is going to teach them. I'm just here to be a little instrument in that whole part. And it doesn't matter if my language is bad. I just need to open my mouth, because the Spirit will do the rest. And it really did hit strong in that moment. And I saw the tears in their eyes, and I was like, wow, the gospel's true,